Welcome back to Candid Conversations with Carmen. I'm your host, Carmen, and this is my side host,
Ashley.
And our wonderful producer, T-Nugget.
T-Nugget.
And on today's episode, and y'all not know how excited I am for these guests today. We have the amazing Edith and Jessica Salazar.
Hi, everybody.
I'm so happy for them to be on today.
I know.
They have phenomenal stories, phenomenal lives. Like, they are business women. They are entrepreneurs. I mean, they are killing the game. So I am so excited for people to hear your stories and to really connect with anything that you have to share, everything we touch on. I truly believe God is going to bless it. And people are really going to be touched by your lives, your stories, your examples, everything. So
amen to that.
And so we're going to jump right in, I guess.
Yes, okay.
So today's theme, or the theme of today's episode, is going to be transformations and transitions. So the season as a whole has really been essentially about growth so far, really. It's kind of stages of life and where you've been versus where you are, and then where you want to go. So we're going to kind of touch on some elements of your life. And you guys are going to just kind of discuss. I'm so happy.
I'm excited too.
Yeah, we're happy to be here.
I love it.
So, Ashley, I kind of chopped you off if you want to kind of jump in on the topic or anything.
Oh, I wasn't saying anything.
Okay.
It had nothing to do with what we were talking about, what I was thinking about.
Okay, so that works. Let me pull up my topic.
Okay.
Let me pull up a little
good.
Professional. Okay, so again, like I said, the overall overview of today's thing is going to be transformations and transitions. So the transitions that you've experienced in life, and just kind of you guys telling us your story. So the first thing I want to kind of get into is, I know that English is not your first language.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So, like,
Definitely not.
How was that, like, learning English, and how did you learn, and that kind of thing?
Did you want to go? Or?
I can go first.
Okay, go.
Because it's like very vivid in my mind. Okay. So for me, I just kind of like jumped into it.
Okay.
So when it was time to enroll me in school, I still remember, they were like, oh, what's your name? Because they were enrolling me. And I remember telling them in Spanish, like, hi, I'm Edith. And then my dad had to like say it in English for me because I didn't know English at the time. So I vividly remember my dad, like, they're all kind of like chuckling, like, oh, she's like talking in Spanish. So I think that's how I learned, was, I guess, just watching like TV. I just learned from what I saw on TV, what the words that they would say, and then just going to school. So I went to school not knowing English. Wow. So I think that kind of was a little bit hard because it just felt really strange. Yeah. I just remember crying a lot when I was a kid. So yeah, they'd be like, do you need to go home or something? I'd just be crying. And now looking back, I'm like, I think it was just strange. Yeah. They didn't.
Yeah,
there's the language barrier.
Right, a new environment, a different language. Oh my
God. That was my kindergarten.
I feel like I was too young to remember because I started kindergarten, and I just remember my mom would be like, okay, like in Spanish, she'd be like, okay, like, it's time to, go to school. Yes. And I started crying. I'm like, in the front of the class, I was like, no, please don't leave me. I don't know what is this place like.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I feel like it was all just attending class and, listening to other people. At one point, it sticks to you, and you're like, oh, okay, like.
Wow.
Yeah, say by first grade, I had it down.
So within a year, you had learned. You had learned.
That's
English.
incredible.
Yes.
That's amazing. So do you feel like, that having to kind of just be thrown out there, which is kind of what happened.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that made you a little less that made you more fearless when it came to like stepping out there for like your own businesses and doing your own thing?
I think in hindsight, a little bit, yes, because I feel like just naturally as a child of like, immigrants, you kind of have to step up, to a little bit different than other kids. You just kind of have to grow up just a little bit faster.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, definitely.
Amazing.
And so when you started getting into school and your education and everything, how was that different? Because you're, like you said, you were, children of immigrants and things like that. So how did you all connect with your peers and things like that? Because I know you were in the South, so
that's also another difference.
So I mean, we have our stories, of just being Black in the South. How does that play a part in how you learn and how people treat you, and how do you go through that?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like it took some time to kind of figure out who you are, and then try to figure out your environment. You're like, how do I fit in here? Like, so it was like learning English, and then it's like, okay, I don't know. It's still like not very vivid to me, like how it just all came to be. But I just remember always feeling out of place, like, just like, I don't know, what is this?
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I felt for me, the teachers and everybody surrounding me, I feel like, fortunately, because we went to like a Christian school and everybody was pretty nice, so I don't think that I felt like singled out, I guess.
That's great, and that's kind of like what I wanted to see, because well, for us, we were homeschooled, so we singled ourselves out because we were together all the time, so we didn't have anybody to just make anything, but just having that experience to have people wanting to work with you and help you move to the next level. I think that's really good.
Yeah. So like so you start kindergarten, you're thrown out there, and like instantly you're fluent in English. So you're like, hello,
2 languages.
You're like, hello, I'm bilingual, I'm amazing. So like after that, then you kind of go through your elementary, middle school, high school years. So at what point did you kind of start to build like your relationship with God, or kind of, because I know like for me, like obviously like we grew up in a Christian home, Christian household. It was always like, love the Lord and everything. But I know like really until like my teens did it really become relational for me. So like for you all, at what point do you have like a memory or a moment where you felt like this is where I'm like, you know what, I'm dedicating my life, or did you have that kind of thing?
Yeah. Did you want to go first? Or?
Well, honestly, like growing up, I would always hear people talking about Jesus, and I was like, oh, he sounds like an awesome. Whatever he is.
Nice guy.
I was like, he sounds awesome, but I don't really know like what that's all about. And like honestly, like I noticed my sister was more like interested in it. Like she would be like, oh, like asking questions to the teachers and stuff, and I'd be like, okay, this seems like a cool thing because she's asking questions, and so I kind of like, because of her interest, I was kind of like, okay,
like, what's going
on
here?
Yeah, but like all school, really, I didn't really like take it seriously until like I grew up and I was like in high school, and I was like, wait a minute, like life starts happening, and you're like,
yes,
Jesus, I don't want to know you now.
That's so true.
Kind of deal. So yeah.
But yeah, like I think with going to a Christian school, I feel like they were planting the seed from like a very young age. And then I feel like I got that curiosity. We would have like chapel every Wednesday, so they would gather the whole school. We would listen to like some teaching and stuff. And then I do remember vividly one day asking one of the teachers, because they would ask everybody like, do you want to stay behind? Do you want to accept Christ? And I remember doing that. So one of the teachers, like, she was praying and she led me through that. So that's like very vivid in my mind, and I feel like it didn't click right away, but I feel like that was the start of my journey with Christ, because I feel like it's very like it's just what's it called, like a journey with him. It goes it's not like linear. It's not like, oh, I got it from right here.
Yeah, because honestly, like, your relationship with Christ, it's like a process.
Yes,
like,
a lot of sanctification.
Because for me, honestly, I'm still like, I don't know what was the day that I was like, yes, like, today everything changes. Like, so it's kind of blurry.
Right.
Like,
No, that's true.
Yeah.
That's honestly the truth. You're right. It's not like a snap of the fingers. Like, I feel like you commit your life to the Lord. You don't have that memory where you're like, okay, I've led to Christ and I accepted him into my heart. But then also, it's a daily journey. Like, I have to make a decision every day, like, oh, did I think about God today?
Yeah.
Or did I focus on that? Or, like, was I reading? Like, So it definitely is a process. That was the perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
It is a process, 100%.
Mm-hmm. And then going through it, when you were saying that, it's, you accepted it, but it was like you accepted them, but you were like, I don't really know what this entails. I'm just gonna go with it. It's there, but like you said, the seed was planted. So then from there, I guess, would you say that the Lord started doing a work in you after you accepted, or what all started taking place in your life, in your walk after you accepted?
I definitely would say that he started working in my heart. I feel like I was a baby Christian for a while because I feel like all throughout high school I started kind of get a grasp of who he is, but I feel like college is where it was like that changed everything for me. Just because when I went to college, like I had finally found like a church and everything, and like it was just presented so differently to me than it had ever been. And I was like, wow. And that time, it was a very short time there, but it would just change my life so much. It was like I got to know the Lord then. Because like they would show me, how to read scripture, how to and I was like, this is who God is. Like once you start reading it, it's like, oh, it's like, I used to just read it here and there, but reading it for yourself is like, oh my goodness, this is God. Yes. I did not know him like that. And you know him on such a deeper level. You're like, this is who God is, and nobody can tell me any different.
It's like, wow, I finally realized that it's about a relationship. Like that's the missing puzzle sometimes. You're like, I didn't know how to get there, but it's pretty simple. Like, you just have to seek him and But
Go ahead.
And I was thinking, because how we say that in school we didn't really know or listen, but I feel like through every chapter of life it took some time to accept a different thing until it finally was like, you know what, Lord, I'm gonna surrender everything, because each step was like, I'm gonna give you a little bit of this, I'm gonna believe you a little bit in this, and then at the end it was like, no, actually
just fully surrender. Be like, okay, we're gonna follow.
That's amazing. I know. I mean, nail on the head. Like you guys, you're hitting it exactly. Like that's the truth. It takes time. It's a process. It's a transformation that's happening on the inside, but it's also a transition from one version of yourself to the next version and the next version, walking with the Lord every time. And he's like, I'm gonna hold you on this way. I'm gonna walk with you in this area. So I mean, that's exactly true. So I know you mentioned when you kind of lay it all out there and it's like, oh, I've got nothing else. I know that you had some things on with your health and things like that. How did, after high school, right? So you had some health challenges and things that went on. How did that, you can kind of get more details specific to it, but then also how did that impact your walk? Yeah, because honestly, I had cancer when I was, I think, 7 years old, thyroid cancer, but at the time, I remember always feeling sick, and I was like, I don't know why I feel this way, but I was just going with the flow. I was like, whatever. And honestly, that whole journey was, it was interesting because I feel like as a kid, you don't really understand what's going on. You're I don't know why I'm getting poked all the time, or I don't know why I don't feel good all the time. Why am I going to the doctor all the time? At this point, I was missing a lot of school. And so it was just a challenging time, but I feel like it wasn't extremely hard because at the time I wasn't sure what was going on. My parents would kind of be like, no, it's okay. Yeah, they were like, let's just, keep going kind of deal. But afterwards, I feel like the after of it was so much harder because I looked back and I was like, man, I almost lost my life low key. That's traumatizing. And I feel like I'm still working through it. It's still oh my dear, I went through that and I didn't really have anybody to talk to as a kid when that happened. And so now it's I carried those problems and those thoughts with me all throughout high school, and I was I just feel I don't belong anywhere. I don't know, still trying to process everything. I'm I need somebody, I need help, but I don't know who to go to kind of deal. And so I feel that's when Jesus was just, he was just presenting himself into my life. Yes. In different ways. And because even now, honestly, I still struggle with this.
before like my birthday or something comes up, or like something exciting comes up, like the night before, I'll start having like terrible fear that I'm like, I'm gonna die that night kind of deal.
Go to the next transition, like
so it's like I'm not gonna make it to that exciting thing that I'm looking forward to, or like that sort of thing. And it's like I'm so grateful to have Jesus in my life, because I know that I can take it to him now. Like, I'm not alone, and I can take it to him. And I even though I'm scared to fall asleep, I'll be like, Jesus, like, I'm just gonna trust you, you know, like, that it's gonna be okay, because it's just a lot to work in. And again, like, the whole trusting in the Lord, like, also it's a process.
Easier said than done.
100%.
Yes.
No, 1000%. Like, I mean, to have one thing that you said that really stood out to me is that really that processing things that happen in your childhood, because it's like I didn't really understand it. And like I was even telling Ashley about myself, I was like, there are some things I'm like, wow, little Carmen is still, knocking on that door. And I was like, so you think about, you think, oh, I'm past this, or it just was what it was. But when it starts to be uncovered, and you're like, wait a minute, I haven't processed this, or I haven't acknowledged that feeling, or whatever. And when you're working through that process, it can be a tough emotional journey. And so, I'm the person who's like, let's shut those emotions down. So, but you're 100% right. God is there, and he's faithful, and you can really cry out and be like, I'll be like, Lord, I don't know, like, I need your help. Like, I'm at the end of me, and I'm barely making it. And it's true that you really aren't alone, and that has been carrying me as well, because it's just anything that has happened in your life in general, but a lot of times, especially things that happen in your childhood, because you process them as a child, and so the adult version of you has more knowledge, more understanding. You have the you can think of things in a more clear, concise way, but the way that they're impacting you is still the little version of you. It's like, why am I letting that bother me so bad? Like, it wasn't, it's like, for one, it happened. And so you can acknowledge, like, this is exactly how I felt. But then also to say, the child version of me still needs to heal. The child version of me still needs to be built up. So I can, be delivered from whatever that pressure is, that hurt is, that pain is, so that I can really live my life to the fullest. But that is so true. I'm
just like, praise the Lord for the process too, because he's not like, get rid of that fear now.
And it is a process, because I think it's like he knows what you can handle in the moment. And so like, even because you were talking about fear, I was telling Carmen last year, I took myself on a little trip, and I knew that I had some areas where fear, but I was like, I will always say, I'm not afraid of anything. I can handle anything, but I was alone on that trip. When I tell you, fear attacked me so bad, because I was like, I don't want to go to sleep. Somebody can attack me. You start thinking about all these different things. I'm here by myself. I'm all these different things. I'm away from everybody that I know. But on top of that, I also had a fear, because a lot of trips and things that I had gone on, I would hear about somebody passing or anything like that. So I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I know that when I get home, or when if I get a call, I'm going to keep checking in, because I want to know what's happening, because my fear is that when I get back, somebody's going to have passed, or somebody's going to have lost a life. So it was a devastating fear. So I understand when you're talking about staying up at night and thinking about like, Lord, and really having to cry out to the Lord and say, God, help me get through this fear, because there's nothing else that I can do myself that would help me to get through the night, other than just staying up and being like, whew, I made it.
With iPad, like, I made it through.
It's great, I'm awake, and the next day has come, and so then that feeling, I understand. It's a terror. It's not just fear. It's a terror of like,
and it feels so real. Like, because for me, like, in my mind, it's like, you're gonna die tonight, and I'm like, oh my dear, that feels so real. It's like I don't see beyond this. And but it's like I have to fight. I have to like pray and go to sleep even afraid, but trusting, like, this is not real. This is not my reality.
And I think also is speaking the word, like speaking the word to yourself. Like in his word, he says, you shall live and not die, like, and proclaim the word of the Lord. So if you, when in those moments, when those feelings come and arise, it's like, devil, I see what you're doing. Say, I see the thoughts. These are not my thoughts that I have.
Yeah.
This is not what God thinks of me. It's what you think of me. This is what you want me to feel. But I know that I'm living. I have the joy of the Lord. I have a peace and a sound mind. You know, love and a sound mind.
Yes.
You know, I'm walking in this. I'm gonna have joy
Yeah.
in my in the morning. Like there's nothing that's gonna keep me. And so those type of things, it's just speaking that over yourself, speaking life into yourself. Because sometimes, like you said, you don't have anybody to walk with you through those moments. It's you by yourself. And I think that's one of the things that has been terrifying to me, is that, you know, all through life, people are talking about making friends and having a life. And, you know, you get a spouse or you have children and you have all these different things. But in the grand scheme of things, you were born by yourself. You will leave by yourself. You will face Jesus by yourself. Like, all these other people are great and wonderful, but really,
it's just you and the Lord.
Yes, exactly.
At the end of the day,
it's a walk. So,
yeah.
Edith, during this time, you're growing up, you're doing different things. How did this affect you, or were you even realizing what was going on, or were you shielded from it as well?
They shielded both of us, so they kind of like took on all of that. I could kind of feel something was off because you know, I was there in the room when the diagnosis was given and everything, but you know, just like Jessica. I could not grasp what that meant, and like while Jess would get like her surgeries and treatments, I would have to stay like my aunt's house. So I didn't like grasp what was going on at the moment, but I did know like something was off, and I didn't know till like years later down the road.
Okay. And so that brings you fast forward, you're in high school. You're in college now, and then now after college, you are now trying to decide what to do with your life. Like, how did you move into that next stage? Like, you had health challenges and things like that. You were still experiencing some health challenges as well. So both of y'all, how were y'all transitioning into like adulthood? Like, you know.
That was something. I mean, you could keep going, like.
You can.
We can jump to something else.
I mean, I wanted to say, like, because honestly, like, after all that, it's a lot to go through. Like I mentioned, I was barely at school afterwards. And so, like, hopping back into it, I was like, I don't have friends, and I don't know, like, I was kind of behind. Like, I was like, I don't know what this mathematics is. Like, I'm just like, what is going on? And I feel like that was my whole journey after that. Like, I honestly, like, was kind of depressed. And, like, I just felt like I wasn't on the same pace as everyone else. I was like, I feel kind of behind. And so I feel like senior year, still the same, but I feel like that was the time that Jesus was like, you know, I want to take you to another thought process, because, you know, he renews our mind, and he wants to continue to do that for us. And again, that was a big moment of surrender as well, to be like, you know what, I'm not going to hide behind these anxiety and this fear and depression. Like, I'm not going to believe that. Like, this is the time to break it. Because again, because it was like senior year, and I'm like, I'm going to graduate, like, and this is a time for change. It might as well go all in. Like, do it in all areas of life. Like, because I was like, I'm tired of this, you know? So, that was my thing.
That's amazing. I mean, really. And you hit it. He's renewing our mind. Like, that is, when you said that, I was like, the poetry, because it's so true. And something you said even earlier, like the simplicity of God in its complexity. So like, we'll be going through it.
I know.
And it's like, I'm
through the
barely
storm.
making it. I'm barely holding on. Like, I'm Rose. Jack has already fell off the door. I'm Rose. Like, and you're sitting there, and God is like, I'm here with you. And like, he renews your thoughts. He changes the way that you view the world, the way that you view your situations. And that is a requirement for us to get to the place that he wants us to be in the end. But it really is him helping us to make it through our lives.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
honestly, I'm like, I would not have made it yesterday if you hadn't have been with me. So I'm just commend that point.
Literally, we're like the disciples when they're in that boat and they're like, we're gonna die.
Yeah.
And Jesus comes out of nowhere. He's like, we're fine. Like,
Yeah,
it's
like,
okay. The storm stops all of a sudden,
Yeah,
and they make it to their destination. And it's like, you thought you weren't gonna make it.
Right. And
You
he's
thought-
like, peace be still.
Yeah.
And you're like,
What?
That's all we had to do was
Yeah.
say, peace be still.
all we had to do was just trust in you. Like,
Yeah.
and he'll take it over. He's
Yeah.
in charge of it all.
Yeah.
Just like, cast your cares
Yeah.
on him. And
Because in that moment, he was in the boat, but
he was asleep.
But
He was
now-
alert.
yeah. But now, like, we have the Holy Spirit. He's with us
Yes.
constantly.
Yes.
So
Yeah. I'm
definitely
like,
can't forget that.
fear is like super tricky and it manifests in so many ways in life. And one thing that I heard that like kind of changed my perspective, still struggle with fear, but that it was like fear is us thinking that God's not going to be there. And it's like, oh, we are thinking of that moment without him there. And when has he never like just been absent?
Well,
Never.
Write that down. Like, yes, ministry.
And see, that's how you know that it's the enemy's thoughts and lies.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's like
yeah.
God's gonna be there. He's never forsaken you. Like he's already like all the way to the other side. He's an eternity on the other side, and we're thinking of us going through it alone.
Yeah.
And like that brings a lot of anxieties and stuff. But I feel like kind of going back to that and be like, God's gonna be there.
Yeah.
And that's such a huge blessing that we're able to carry the Holy Spirit in us, and like God's just with us. So.
Yeah, he's in the beginning and the end.
Yes.
Exactly. Like, the whole thing. Like,
Yes.
Oh
he's
my
never
gosh.
not there.
So when it comes to now, I know at the beginning I said these are entrepreneurial queens. So like how when you're stepping out there, really, in fact, I mean, if you're starting a new business or a new endeavor, how do you have the confidence or the boldness to kind of just be like, I'm doing it. Like, I'm gifted. I'm doing it. Like, how do you get to that place? Or, like, what was the, like, inspiration or motivation to say, oh, you know what? I'm going to do this. Because you both are, again, queens. So, like, how do you get to that place?
So I feel like I feel like the theme in my life is just getting thrown into things.
That's what I was about to say. Like, it just, you had no option. But
Not looking back. So once I did my freshman year, life just got really complicated. I was unable to go back. So I was just like, God, what are we doing now? Because I had this whole thing in my mind, like, you're going to go to college, do the 4 years, graduate, get a job, the whole thing. And God had different plans. But he was merciful and very loving, and he still carried me after that. He's like, I'm just going to leave you there. So I always made like friendship bracelets when I was in high school. I was an expert. I knew how to make those. So that's kind of like what I started. God provided the people to help that grow. That first year was just, a lot of like friends just, helping promote it and get it out there. And then, it was a craft that I was like really comfortable with too, making. So I feel like it was just the getting thrown out there and just trusting God with it. Like, this is yours ultimately, where it's here to serve its purpose as well, to kind of help me to get to the other, part of my life. But yeah, I was like, it was just totally God from the start. That's like, this is the path we're taking.
And those were some really nice friendship relationships. I really liked it.
When you I guess I want to get your answer, but I got to piggyback on it because you closed down your bracelet shop.
Yes.
And I was like, no.
Yeah.
So when you decided to kind of transition out of making your bracelets, and they were gorgeous. Guys, I'm talking about craftsmanship, the Lord. Like when you transition from that and you now have your, Troy told me the name, nope, Coyote Co.
Yes, Coyote
Was that
Co.
what you immediately went to, or did you have something in between those two?
I kind of took some time off afterwards because, it was, again, just jumping into it. And I was like, I just need a kind of something to sustain me at the moment. So I remember the months coming up to the time being like, I'm going to close the shop. I had never contemplated even closing the shop. And it was a few months before where it came to me. That was like, I think it's time to close. And I was like, oh. I did not think it was time yet. And I kind of wrestled the idea for a little bit. And then I was like, okay, we started this and, it's time to close it. Not everything's forever. So So that time it was very difficult, but you know, I ended up closing it. Afterwards, I got Coyote. I threw in like some of my savings straight into him.
Yeah.
And I got him, and I was like, best decision I've ever made. So that's kind of like when like the pandemic hit and everything. Yeah. So I was just at home with Coyote. Thankfully, I had him because it was very difficult kind of going from having my business and everything to just sitting there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it's like having nothing to do. And I still had to deal with stuff in my life right before going into the shop that I had not dealt with.
Okay.
So it was like kind of sitting in that. And it was like, oh my goodness.
Explain who Coyote is.
Oh, yes.
For people who don't know.
Coyote is my dog. He's an Australian Shepherd.
Cute.
He's so cute. He's 2. His birthday was in December. So.
He's our surprise guest.
Okay, so go ahead. I just wanted to jump in. So you were in the pandemic and you had him to focus on. And so that then jump started your thought process on moving into your next endeavor. Okay.
Yes, because I was like, you know, I wanted to make them all cute and stuff. Yeah. So that's kind of like where the idea came from. And I did end up opening the business for like a few months. And then I took back a pause. I worked as a receptionist at a vet clinic for a little while. And then while I was there, I feel like God was like, okay, now's the time. And I was like, oh my goodness. Because like I was talking to my coworkers and they're like, you have a shop? And I was like, yeah, it's like nothing, you know. And they're like, you have a shop? And I was like, yeah, it's just there though. And they were like, oh my goodness, like that's so cool. And I was like,
they're like, but you have a shop.
And I was just trying to pushing it because I was like, I kind of was just like, I'm just gonna work right now. I wasn't really paying attention to it that much. I did want to eventually grow it, you know, and stuff. And God started pushing me that way again. Yes. He's like, all right, it's time. And I was like, oh, it's time. It's like that meme where it's like, oh my gosh, it just like takes off. Yeah. And so, yeah, like, again, my friends like started helping it grow and everything, encouraging me, be like, do it. Like, and, you know, they would go to markets with me and everything. And here we are in another business.
And so explain, so what does Coyote Co do? Like what do you sell and so that when people go out to look for your products, they can find you and be like, okay, girl, yes, this is what I want.
Yeah, so I hand make the bandanas and also make leashes that kind of look like leather leashes. And then my friend Ashton, she makes like the accessory portion, the keychains and all that. So that's what we sell. I just thought about this. Going into this business was very different than the first one for a lot of reasons, because the first one is like I kind of was pushed into it. I needed it to sustain me at the time. But I feel like learning from the past one, I was like, I don't feel the pressure of like, you know, making the sales and doing all this. It's kind of like more like, here, God, this is an offering. You grow it. So.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, so it's like a different approach this time because truthfully with the first business, it would be kind of like in the back of my mind, like, oh, you have to hit certain sales. You have to grow it to a certain, you know, audience. And now I'm like, I'm just there like, you know, it grows, thank God. Yes. If I get a sale, thank God. Like, I'm not pressuring myself to hit those milestones and everything, which is kind of tricky because, you know, you often see a lot of like business advice is like, you know, do this, get to 1,000 followers like tomorrow.
Yes.
And you open your business, you're already getting a warehouse.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah, you're like a billionaire by the first week. Yeah. You're like, well, how'd they get there?
And I feel like this one is just so much less pressure. It's very much like, you know, I actually had like a verse for this one. It's Exodus. I can't remember the reference, but it was like, you know, wherever God leads, I will follow. Because it was like where they were in the desert and God had kind of like left them like, you know, you pick this time. And they're like, we're not going nowhere unless you're going. And that's how I felt going into this business. It's like, you know, if this is where we're going, then I'm following you here. Because that's kind of like the theme now in life, and I hope forever on. It's just like wherever you go, I don't care where it is, I will follow you. Yes. So that's how kind of this business is. It's just a different mindset going in.
Yes. That's amazing. That's an amazing mindset to have. I mean, like, where you go, I'll go. I need to be. No, that's true.
Yes, but that's a hard statement because you never know where he wants to take you. And so, like, not having control, that's something I work on. It's the releasing control. And so to say that God, this is my offering to you. Like, that's even more of a testimony in itself, because like you said, the goals and the milestones and wanting to put yourself out there, you're saying, God, this, you breathe on it. You expand it. You take it where you want it to be. Girl, that's a testimony, because not many people could say that about a business that they're working in.
Or life in general.
Yeah.
You'll be like, Lord, I believe you, but I'm going to set my alarm to
just
in case you don't,
Yeah, in case you don't come through, but that's a lie.
Right. Right,
Because he will come through.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, pivoting back to you, Jessica.
Yeah.
'Cause I know you also, again, queen. So, I know that you have your business, Mustard Thread.
I do, yeah.
And amazing. Like, to be able to, I'm just, for anyone who can actually like do things with their hands and like create like with their hands.
Yeah.
I'm like you can go on a laptop and pull up a spreadsheet. Like, come on. But like, you're making this, you see the vision, you're creating something from nothing, really.
Yeah.
Like, how did you get inspired? How did you jump into like your business?
Yeah. So honestly, it's kind of the same story with like going to college and you think you're going to do something. Like, I wanted to be like a counselor. And no, we didn't go that direction. But like, I remember that year, I took a class. It was like an adulting class, and it was like where you have to learn how to do things like adults for adults. So like, one day we all had to give a presentation. We had to teach the class how to do something. And so, so other people were like, okay, here's how you do such and such. So me and my partner, we were going to show them how to sew. So we were like, how to sew a button on a shirt kind of deal. And so like, while I was practicing for the presentation, I was like stitching. I like low-key did embroidery, but with sewing techniques. And so I did that. That was like the first time I did something on fabric. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, and it was fun. Like, we did the presentation, and then summer break comes, and I'm like, I need a hobby. Like, you know, what am I going to do this summer? And so I started looking up YouTube videos of like how to embroider or something like that. And I started embroidering, and I was like, wow, like, I feel a lot of peace doing this. Like, it was like therapy. I was like, okay, this is something that I've needed for a while. Like, this is awesome. Like, and so my sister, she did her Simplicity Co business, and it was going really well, and she was encouraging me to do the same, because so she was like, you know, since we're all like kind of like, what do we do now? She was like encouraging me like, hey, you should start something like with your art, because I would always do like artsy stuff, but like this was like different, I guess. And so I'm like, okay, I guess I'll do it. So I like do a couple designs that I opened at She's shop, and so that comes about. And like, honestly, like a couple months later, a lady reached out to me, and she was like, we'd like to have your stuff in our boutique. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, wait, are you serious? Because honestly, like in the beginning, I didn't want to grow big or anything. Like, I'm a super shy person, honestly. And I was like, what? Like, oh my dear. And like, it was in Monroe, and it was like, it's pretty busy over there. So I was like, oh my dear, it's like out of my comfort zone. But I was like, okay, like, I'll do this. But I didn't want to do anything too big with my business kind of deal. And so that's kind of how it all started. Like, just opportunities kept coming, and even sometimes still I'm like, oh my dear, that's too big of an opportunity for me. Like, but like, I'm like, you know what, I'll just do it. Like, you know, if the Lord, you know, puts it in my way, I'll be like, okay, like, I'll go for it. And but that's how I started, because I felt like it was like a therapeutic for me. So I was like, I love that it's like a creative outlet. So
does it still feel like therapy, or does it feel like work?
Honestly, sometimes it does feel like work, but I try, like, what always stays the same is like, when I make like a new design, for example, like it is my passion to do that part. And I was like, that does not feel like work. That is like my favorite part. Designing stuff, my favorite part.
Oh, that's amazing.
So
and again, quality. I'm just saying, and to make that by hand, and it's nice. Like, it's not even like, you know, like, and I can be that person who be like, don't do it, girl. Like, it is really nice. So like, and I mean, for it to be, again, like, it's an outlet for you, but then it's also something that God is using. Like, he's like, I'm gonna give you peace. Like, I want you to be at peace.
And like, honestly, in the beginning, similar to my sister again. Like, I was like, oh my dear, like, because when you open a business, it's gonna be slow. Like, and I was like, where are the sales? Where are my customers? Like, what do I do? Why aren't people like? Why is it not what I expected? And like, yeah, for like the first years, I was so concerned about that. But I feel like there was a time where I burned myself out from doing that, and God was like, okay, let's start all over again. He was like, I need you to trust me again, and I just need you to, you know, and at this point, I was like, okay, I'm going to do a collection that's really personal. I've never really done that before. Before, it was just like, I was just making stuff just to make stuff. But this time, I was like, you know, I'm going to do something that, like, actually relates to me. And I think it was, like, related to, like, anxiety. I was like, you know what? I'm going to, like, be open about my anxiety. Like, and so I made some hoops that were, like, some of them said, like, faith over fear. And some of them said, like, trust in the Lord by Proverbs 3:5-6. Like, and so I was like, I wanted it to be a collection of, like, verses that encouraged me, or, like, just phrases that encouraged me, that reminded me about the Lord. And, like, that was my most, like, the best time ever. Like, like, it was a blessed, like, collection for sure. And I'm just so grateful. Like, the Lord took me aside for a minute and reminded me of what's important, and to not rush things, not be concerned, because He's watching over everything. He's taking care of everything. So that's what He's teaching me.
Honestly, like, I knew when I was like, Troy, let them connect. You know, when I was saying that, I was like, I really think that having them on as guests is going to be an amazing experience. I was like, they're even Troy's just this is our first time meeting, in case anyone knows. We met today.
This is our first time.
We met today. But like, just like little things, like he would say, like, oh, you know, Edith and Jessica, whatever. And he would, you know, mention you in passing or whatever. And I'm like, these young ladies are going to be the bomb. I'm like, I'm like, their stories are just beautiful. They are lovely. They're so sweet. I'm like, they are going places. You know what I mean? Like, they're going places.
And not even knowing you in like, I mean, I met Edith on a school trip.
Jessica.
Jessica. Met Jessica on the school trip, and I think I met her too because of Rachel. Through Rachel, maybe like once, but it was in passing. But I didn't know them like that. But having had the conversations, like Carmen said, with Troy, it made it so much more like I want to know you all, how you all, and hearing you all speak about your faith and speaking about your walk with God and your trusting in Him. It's inspiring because, you know, I think everybody who believes, or even people who are not believers, have come to a place where they're like, I don't know where else to turn. I don't know where else to go. And to hear you saying, you know what, I'm at a standstill. You know, I need Jesus. Like, Jesus, I don't necessarily know who you are at this moment, but Jesus, I hear nice things about you. Like, can you help me out of this situation? Right. And then seeing Him work and trusting, like, hey, I called on you this one time and you showed up. Like, let's try this out again. And each time it's like Him showing Himself faithful. And I think that's one of the great things, is that even when we aren't faithful, He is. And so that's true.
And that reminds me of, like, how I mentioned, you know, I struggled with cancer in the past, and then after that, like, depression, anxiety started, and I'm like, I kept carrying that with me. And I do remember a time where I was just like, Lord, I just feel like there's no, like, I'm in a dead end, literally. Like, I don't see a day after this. Like, I don't see a better day after this. And so I just felt like in that moment, I was like, Lord, either, like, I mean, not to be super dark, but it's like,
be honest.
But, like, it's like, either I take my life or I surrender it to you. And I was like, I'm going to surrender it to you. Like, I don't know why. That was like, okay, I'm going to just do that. And, like, and that's how it started, basically. Like, the true moment where I was like, I'm going to just see what you do with my brokenness. Like, because I don't know what good could come out of it. I'm going to see what you do.
I mean, and one of the things that Edith said from your schooling was that it was a seed planted. When you started, it was a seed planted. And then you said, okay, I see my sister kind of drawn
Yeah.
to the Lord, and I'm like, okay, what is this about? Jesus seems like a nice
Yeah,
guy. Like maybe he's a nice guy. Like we can maybe meet up. So you're kind of got curious, and then you got to a point where you were at the end of your rope. You're like, look, there's nothing else I can do.
Yeah.
Like I'm struggling. Yeah. I'm weighed down.
Literally.
Life is too hard by myself, and that's the honest to goodness truth. Like I feel like if you haven't been to that point where you're like, life is too hard for myself. For me to do it alone, it happens. Like it comes, and whatever that looks like, that is, it comes, it arises, and so you see, okay, but then it speaks to the faithfulness of God. Like you surrendered your life to Him, then He's like, okay, you're gonna take a class in school, and you're gonna say, okay, I like this. I'm gonna jump on YouTube and I'm gonna learn how to embroider. Like me on YouTube, please. I would have been throwing those hoops out. But you're like, I'm gonna learn how to embroider, and you learn this skill. I mean, it's a masterpiece at this point. You learn this, and the Lord is like, okay, she knows how to do it. She has the skill set now. Let's take this somewhere else. And you're like, I'm gonna be vulnerable, and I'm gonna say, okay, I'm struggling with these areas of my life. I'm going to make a collection that acknowledges what I've been going through and what the Lord has faithfully been bringing me out of. And when you do that, it blows up and it skyrockets. And then other people are touched by your work. So you're selling these things, but the amount of seeds that you're sowing is like...
Which is crazy because, at the moment you don't realize.
Correct.
Like, you don't notice that. Because, like, I do realize... Like, even talking now about this, I'm like, wow, like, the Lord just uses the simplest things. Like, you thought nothing would come out of it. All of a sudden, like, something came out of it. Or, like, just small things like that. Or, like, again, brokenness, you don't think He can mend that, and He does. He makes something better.
But I think each time, like, the naming of your companies, I think they embody, what, like, Simplicity Co. Like, simple, but... but it's intricate. Like the things that you made then was simple. Oh, it's just a friendship bracelet, but it was like the interconnectedness, the weave, all of that was beyond. It wasn't simple, but it was simple. And then for yours, mustard threads, right?
Yes.
That's a mustard seed of faith. That's I'm guessing that's probably the basis.
That's what it's related to. That Bible verse Matthew.
But in that it was built on a mustard seed of faith of saying, okay, God, you've given me this little thing. But the thing is, with the mustard seed, it's small starting out, but it grows to be super, super big. And even with Coyote Co, like coyotes are some of the most resilient and just out, like they can live like forever, like for a long time. They're gonna make it, like no matter what, they're gonna make it. And so even in that, like it's appropriate for who God has made you and where He's taking you. So in those things, names matter. And so the names that you've given is like it's gonna succeed. It's gonna go forward because it's not about you. Like you're not basing it in your own might. You're basing it in God's might. So that's growing. Then mustard seed faith, you're like, I got trees on top of trees. Like the seeds are coming, and I'm sowing seeds because once a seed grows, it comes back, and then you plant more seeds, and it's not just that. It's not just money, but it's the testimony and the lives that touched. Like we didn't know each other, but your testimony touched our lives.
Yes, 100%.
So that's already speaking to it. So and now, however many people may watch this, even if it's just one person, it can touch.
It's a seed planted.
It's a seed planted.
It's a seed planted.
Exactly.
And hey, when you plant the seed, God does the rest.
Yes.
He'll do the watering. He'll do the tilling. He'll do the working out.
Yes.
So it's like, hey, I planted the seed, Lord. Show up.
You plant and He grows it.
He grows it.
It's just crazy to me because I never even noticed that thing about our names. Like, when you say it all together, like at the time I was just like, this is my little mustard seed of faith. So, and I love the color like yellow. So I'm like, I might as well and it's just crazy. Like,
it all comes down to God. Behind everything, like so intentional, and like He's putting this all together slowly, and then for us it's like 100 years. Like,
Again, the simple thing. I was like, I didn't notice that.
It's just, yeah, it's just crazy figures. Like, it's just been God, like, that has even brought us to even be to the point of surrendering, because I wouldn't have done that on my own.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll just stay in my comfort zone. But he's like, no, go.
Yes.
And it's just him, like, from the very beginning and behind everything. Like, it's all him. Yeah. And I'm like, I think a big thing that I learned in college was that, like, becoming a Christian is choosing the hard life. And that is not something that's really talked about, because when you follow Christ, you see it many, many times where people are like, oh, in the Bible, they were like, oh, you know, what does it take to follow you? Leave everything. And it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa,
like,
you mean everything?
Yes.
And that's like really convicting to be like, he means everything, like surrendering everything in life. And even now, sometimes, like even looking back and remembering like, oh, you know, God was faithful when I was able to surrender this.
Yes.
It's still hard, but it's like remembering he was there.
Yeah.
You know, and the Christian life is not easy.
Yes.
Accepting Christ is not going to be an easy road at all. It's going to be very difficult. He doesn't promise, like, he promised, like, God, like, he will be there for us. But it's like, it's just going to be a hard life. And I think really, like, being like, oh, my goodness. But he gives you the strength. He gets you to that point of, like, surrendering and everything. And he just... It's all him at the end of the day.
Yeah, because honestly, it's like beyond just, like, because you normally hear, oh, just say this prayer and you'll be good to go. You go to heaven.
Yes.
Like, it's beyond that.
Yes.
It's so much more beyond that, because God wants to work with you consistently. Like,
Every
he's
day.
constantly leaving things at his feet
Yeah.
that he wanted to hold on to.
Yeah.
But he's just, it's all about surrender. Surrender every day. It's not just on day one.
And he helps you
It's
surrender.
every day.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, thanks to the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
It'll happen. But you just got to trust again. And
That is so true. That is 100% true. I'm so glad you said that, because it really is. The misconception, I think, is, because I think it is sold or missold a lot of times to be like, say the salvation prayer and you're in.
Yeah.
It's that easy.
That's it.
No
like,
work.
And you're like,
And
you
you're
wash
done.
your hands and you're good. You're
Yeah.
in. And I think that it is misleading in the fact that when you say the salvation prayer and you're committing your life to God 100% daily.
Yes.
You have to make a decision every single day. Like, Lord, oh crap, I trusted you yesterday, but today, so I gotta trust you again in the same things I was not trusting you in yesterday, and in new things that I'm not sure about. And so to have to continually walk and continually grow and be stretched and made uncomfortable is hard.
Yes.
It is challenging, but you hit the nail on the head when you said, but God is faithful and he will strengthen you to be able to do that every single day if you rely on him. The Holy Spirit will strengthen you and revive you and continue to work through you so that you can be who God's called you to be, and you can do what the Lord has told you to do. And I think that it was imperative to say that. Because I think a lot, like you said, a lot of times it's a, one and done. You say it, you get in, and now it's good. But I think it is also important to say that when you're with God, like, life's gonna life with God or without. So you're gonna go through the same stuff. Life doesn't change if you believe in him or don't. The difference is you don't have to do it by yourself.
Exactly.
It's life is heavy. How about you lift the load with me?
Yes.
Like, you push it off with me. Like, you care about the stuff I care about. You care so much that you'll care on my behalf. Like, so if we think of it that way, it really does, bless you.
Bless you.
It really does
Yes.
help you to continue in your walk.
Yes.
So you can say, you know what? Outside of this umbrella, it's just as rough. But this time, I have an umbrella. Like, I have, the Lord is working with me. He's walking with me, and he's strengthening me and keeping me in every single way. And I know that I can't do that alone. I know I can't. So I'm like,
But I think it's relational, because like we talk about relationships, but like how many of us are really good at relationships with other people? And I'm not talking about a romantic relationship, like with your friends. How well do you talk to them and communicate? Is it just surface? Is it just surface, or is it like real? Is it like the deep stuff? Is it the things that you're hurting with, or do you talk with them about those? Because most times we'll say, I have my best friend, but what do you talk about? It's like, hey, how you doing? I had a really good day. You know, it was really good.
It's kind of surface level.
Very surface. And I think a lot of times when we think about our relationship with God, it's like the steps of friendship. Hey God, how are you today? You know, I was really good today. It was, you know, it was a bad day.
Or you think you have to go inside a church building and be like, hi, Lord.
Exactly. And it's not the getting to know. And that's one of the things that even for me, it's being consistently in relationship, because it's like I'll have those moments where I'm like, we're besties. Like I'm talking to you, you're talking to me. We're walking, and then there's other days where like I'm tired. You know, I'll catch you next week. You know, when I'm feeling a little bit more myself. You know how you do your friends. You're like, hey girl, I can't talk today. I'm just not feeling it. And so I think as you're talking about, it's not easy. I have to put forth the effort to say, I want to continually be with you. I want to renew my mind, because it's a choice. I want to renew my mind. I want to surrender. Well, I will surrender these things whether I want to or not. And I think that is coming to a different place of understanding how you really are in a relationship. You'd be like, I'm terrible at relationships.
I know. I know you see how like, you're like, wow, I'm a terrible friend. Not good.
And so I think that's really something that has been sticking out to me in recent months. Is something that I've been thinking about a whole lot, is how do I show up in every aspect of my life, and especially in my relationship with God, but with everybody. It's like, how do I show up? Am I really a real good friend, or am I just really surface? Does nobody know who I am? Including me, but you know, and me and God, because God knows everything, but I'm not releasing.
A lot of times concealing things from yourself. And it kind of goes to your point, what you said earlier. It's like when you're being refined, and the Lord is working on you. He knows you can't handle all of the you at once. Like He's like, you'll pass out. You won't make it if I show you everything. So He's like, let's go one step at a time. And so I feel like if in that relationship, it is 100% the most important relationship that because he walks with you at a pace you can keep up with. And so if you're in a relationship, if you have your friends or whatever, 100% it can be indicative of the relationship you have with God as well, because the level of vulnerability you have with Him is a lot of times the level of shame you have. So if you're like, I'm really open with God, and not to the point where it's like, I know I did it, but He's gonna forgive me anyway. It's like, you know, like I'm contrite, like I feel bad about the things that I've done, or whatever that looks like, and you're honestly walking with Him, and you have that vulnerability with Him. Your closest relationships, obviously not Joe Blow down the road, but your closest relationships are, I would think, would somewhat mirror that. Not necessarily to maybe that level of vulnerability, but they would have some level of intimacy that you, and if you're completely surface with everyone that's in your circle, then you can examine and be like, wait, I'm always surface with people. Nobody actually knows this thing about me. Have I come to the Lord with that? Have I brought that before Him? Does He know? Like, He knows, but do I acknowledge it with Him so that we can work this baby out? Because it's like, I know that this is a hurt that I'm holding on to, but I'm not going to share that with my friends because I don't want to be judged. And I don't bring it to God because I don't feel like I'm ready to process it. And, you know, you're like, I think you're going to refine me too good. Then I hold it a little closer. And so I think you're right. A lot of times our relationships do, they look a certain way in reflection to our relationship with God. Because like, if you're in a good place with the Lord and you're loving Him daily, I mean, if you love the Lord, you love other people, you know what I mean? Like, it all flows the same way. So I think you're right in that point. But yeah, I mean, it's all a process. Back to your point. It's all a process.
It's a process.
It's all a process. Okay. Did y'all have any, before we end, did you have any like last points, any shout outs, anything you want to say?
I don't know. I feel like every time you're talking, I'm like, a bunch of things going through my mind. I'm like, wait, yes, that's good. But honestly, like right now, I have been going through another season of like dryness, like with my relationship with the Lord. Like we were talking about that, and like even with my business, I'm like, now what? Like in this season right now. And so like, I'm so grateful that y'all invited us to this, because it's like a moment to reflect on, again, all the things that He's done and what He can do. And it's like, just keep trusting Him. That's like the common word today. But literally just reminded me of who my father is. Like, and I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah, remembering is very important.
Yeah. And just focus on trying to keep your relationship with him, like, sort of thing.
Yeah. Just at the end of the day, shout out to God. You made it this far.
And do you all have like any websites or Instagrams or anything where people can find you to shop your products?
Yeah, I have Instagram and Etsy. Just look up Mustard Thread and you will find me.
Okay. Yeah, I have Instagram, Facebook, shop Wild Coyote Co. And I also have wildcoyote.co. That's my website.
Okay.
Yes.
So will you be able to link those things in the bio? Thank
you. Oh, this was awesome and so needed. Like, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I so enjoyed myself. Thank you so much for coming on. Like, I mean, really, like, every what y'all were saying, I was like, ministry.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, same.
Yeah, it was just really like, we're at time, but we're gonna keep going.
Yeah.
No, it just really, really has been a blessing to talk to you, to have that conversation, to have this conversation. The clock is gonna keep running, but I'm gonna keep talking because the devil can't have
it's just a distraction.
Right. But no, having you on has been an immense pleasure. It has been a blessing, and I know that someone, if it was just for us, like, I have been blessed. And I know that anyone who listens will be blessed as well, and the Lord will be glorified.
Yeah, and I hope so. Because, like, honestly, I've never talked about all this all at once. I'm like, yes. So it was a lot to unpack. I was like, here it goes. Sort of thing. But
yeah, no. So thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks everyone for watching.
Yes.
We will see you in the next one. No. Oh wait. You said no?
You said no. You can go back. We'll see you in the next one.
Are we good? Thanks for watching our latest video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.